The sun had long set when Dr. Morgan finally glanced at the clock. His office, wrapped in the soft light of a desk lamp, remained the only island of life in the Boston Medical Center building. Lily Preston sat motionless, her pale fingers mechanically fidgeting with the edge of her sweater. At 26, she looked younger than her age, as if the years had bypassed her face, leaving only depth in her eyes, impenetrable and dark, like a well. In a quiet, almost inaudible voice, Lily told Dr. Morgan about the sound of the rosary that haunted her in Raven Hill, the clicking of wooden beads hitting against each other during prayer. Dr. Morgan silently encouraged her to continue. In 5 years of therapy, it was the first time Lily allowed herself to delve so deep into her memories. She described how at 9 years old she caught a common flu, but instead of medical help, she received her mother's verdict. It was a trial from God. Her mother refused to call a doctor, believing medical professionals were servants of the devil who defied God's will. The dim lamplight reflected in the tears that gathered in the corners of her eyes. Instead of medicine, Lily told, her mother made her kneel for hours before the icons, praying for healing. The girl remembered the burning pain in her knees and dizziness from fever, while her mother repeated from her chair that God helps those who pray sincerely. Lily's fingers mechanically fidgeted with the edge of her sweater, mimicking the movement of invisible rosary beads as she fell silent. Under Dr. Morgan's gentle encouragement, Lily continued. Exhausted from endless prayers, she had fainted from exhaustion and fever. She was brought back to consciousness by blows. Her mother stood over her with a rosary, hitting her again and again. She blamed her daughter for the weakness that led to illness and for sins that required punishment. The silver crucifix broke the skin, leaving bruises that didn't fade for weeks. At these memories, Lily shuddered as if from cold. Dr. Morgan remained silent, giving her time. Continuing, Lily told about her only friend Emily. They sat together at school after Emily's family moved to Raven Hill from New York. Lily truly came to love this family. Lily described how Emily invited her to a birthday party, a typical children's party with cake, games, and movies. When Lily told about this at home, her mother called the party a gathering of the devil and forbade such worldly pleasures, which, according to her, tempt the soul and lead away from God's path. Lily's gaze clouded over, as if she no longer saw the doctor's office, remembering how she first dared to disagree with her mother. She said then that it was just a birthday party, that all children go to such parties, that God cannot forbid joy. With a bitter smile, Lily added that that evening she truly understood for the first time what maternal love meant. Dr. Morgan noticed how her hand involuntarily reached for her neck, as if protecting it. Lily went on to tell how her mother beat her with the rosary in a frenzy, screaming that the devil had possessed her daughter's soul. When her mother's rage finally subsided, Lily's back was covered in bruises and cuts from the crucifix. After that, according to Lily, her mother locked her in a closet under the stairs for a whole day, depriving her of food and water. The entire time, the girl had to continuously repeat prayers until the sin comes out, as her mother insisted. A heavy silence enveloped the room. Dr. Morgan was in no hurry to break it. Suddenly, Lily's phone vibrated. She flinched as if struck and pulled it from her bag. Looking at the screen, her face changed. The expression of painful memories transformed into something cold and unreadable. Noticing the change, Dr. Morgan asked what had happened. Lily replied in a colorless voice that her mother had suffered a stroke and was now almost completely paralyzed. This was the first call from Raven Hill in 5 years. At 21, Lily had fled without looking back, leaving everything behind: the house that was more prison than home, the church with its suffocating sermons, and her mother, whose love had always been steeped in pain. During these years, she had carefully built a new world, a world without rosaries, prayers, and punishments. She hadn't answered her mother's calls, hadn't left any address, had erased all possible traces. And now this town had found her again, breaking through the protective walls she had so diligently constructed. The call rang out like a bell from the past, reminding her that some things are impossible to escape forever. She slowly rose, moving as if in a dream, and said she needed to leave. Dr. Morgan tried to stop her. He warned that this was serious news and offered to continue the session, suggesting that she shouldn't be alone right now. But Lily quietly yet firmly refused, saying she had to go to Raven Hill immediately. The door closed behind her. Dr. Morgan remained sitting in his chair, feeling a vague anxiety. There was something in Lily's gaze, something he hadn't noticed before, something dark and determined that had awakened after years of sleep. On her way to the underground parking, Lily took out a bottle of medication from her bag, a transparent bubble filled with white pills that were meant to keep her demons under control, the price of her normalcy. She stopped by a trash bin and emptied the contents of the bottle. The pills disappeared without a trace among the wrappers and paper cups. Getting behind the wheel, she felt a strange calmness. For the first time in many years, her mind was clear, crystal clear. A long road to Raven Hill lay ahead, a small town where the church rose above the houses like an accusing finger pointing to the sky. And somewhere there, confined to a hospital bed, Margaret Preston awaited her. A woman whose prayers were finally answered, just not in the way she had hoped. The sterile light of the hospital room stung her eyes. Lily froze in the doorway, staring at her mother's wrinkled body that almost merged with the whiteness of the hospital sheets. Only her black eyes, wide open, glistening with terror, betrayed that consciousness still smoldered inside this motionless body. Margaret Preston, mother, tormentor. It had been over 5 years since Lily last saw her mother. 5 years without calls, letters, or even a word between them. 5 years of relative freedom and peace that Lily had built piece by piece, step by step, session by session. When Lily approached the bed, something cold and hard bloomed in her soul, like a flower that had long waited for its moment. She stared at the woman who once seemed taller than mountains and more relentless than the ocean tide, but now couldn't even move a finger. Lily greeted her mother, quietly noting that she probably hadn't expected her arrival. The words hung in the air like the sound of a rosary scattering across a marble floor. Margaret's eyes widened further, her breathing becoming shallow and irregular. The heart rate monitor beside the bed quickened its beeping. A doctor entered the room, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a detached expression, holding a chart. After greeting Lily, he informed her that her mother's condition was stable, but the prognosis was not encouraging. According to him, the paralysis had affected most of Margaret's body and left her unable to speak, though her consciousness and understanding remained intact. Lily turned to the doctor, and her face took on an expression of deep concern, a mask she had been perfecting all the way here. She asked how long her mother would need to stay in the hospital. The doctor replied uncertainly, mentioning a lengthy rehabilitation that could take months. "No," Lily interrupted him in a soft but firm voice. "I'm taking my mother home. It will be better for her, in her own room, among her own things. I can provide her with the necessary care, even better than here." "You see, doctor," she continued, lightly touching his hand and looking straight into his eyes, "my mother has always been deeply religious. Her whole life was dedicated to faith and prayer. She always told me that true healing comes not from medicine, but from God and the love of family. So I just want to give her what she believed in all her life. It's the least I can do, as a loving daughter." She turned to Margaret, and a thin smile flashed across her lips when she saw pure terror in her mother's eyes. "Isn't this what Mother always taught me?" Lily said softly, looking straight into Margaret's eyes. "That prayer has healing power?" Lily felt her nails digging into her palms. She was clenching her fists so hard, trying to maintain the mask of a caring daughter, that crescent marks appeared on her skin, followed by drops of blood. But the pain in her palms was almost pleasant. It helped her stay focused, while a hurricane raged inside. The first-floor room of the Preston house was filled with evening light seeping through heavy curtains. Margaret lay on the hospital bed that Lily had ordered through social services. IV tubes hung down like tentacles of an invisible creature. The nurse who had been bustling around Margaret an hour ago, setting up IVs and monitors, was already gone. She had explained to Lily in detail the medication schedule, showed her how to change the patient's position to prevent bed sores, and left a phone number just in case. Her last words, "You're such a caring daughter," still echoed in the air, mixing with the smell of antiseptic and sickly sweat. Now they were alone, mother and daughter, locked for the first time in many years in a space from which neither could escape. Lily sat in a chair nearby, fingering an old, worn rosary, the same one that had once left blue marks on her back. "You know, Mother," Lily said, staring intently into Margaret's motionless eyes, "I just remembered your lessons about the power of prayer." Lily stood up and walked to the IV drip, slowly cutting off the flow of liquid. She quoted her mother's words about illness being merely a test of faith, and how medicine dulls one's connection with God. Margaret's eyes widened in horror as she realized what her daughter was doing. The heart rate monitor began beeping faster. Calming her mother, Lily turned off the monitor, explaining that prayer requires silence. She repeated her mother's words about how true prayer resonates in the silence of the heart. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she began fingering the rosary beads. Each bead clicked against the next, quiet and clear like the beats of a metronome. "How does it feel to be locked in your own body, Mother?" Lily asked, leaning closer. "I suppose it's a bit like when a child is locked in a closet under the stairs?" Margaret's eyes widened. "There's just one difference," Lily continued, slowly moving the rosary beads. "When I was in that closet, I could scream, but you can't." Days dragged on one after another. Lily meticulously fixed the bed, but gave her mother neither food nor medicine, only occasionally moistening her lips to prolong the agony. From time to time, she would sit nearby with a frosted glass of whiskey with ice and read passages from the prayer book, the same ones her mother had forced her to repeat in childhood when she locked her in darkness. Lily felt a strange warmth spreading through her body as she watched her mother's helpless eyes. These eyes, which once blazed with righteous anger, now wandered helplessly around the room. In such moments, Lily would move her chair closer to the bed, not to miss a single shade of horror on Margaret's face. "Remember how you used to say that prayer heals body and soul?" Lily said. "I believe it now too. See, I'm healing with each day I spend by your side." At night, Lily would wake up only to make sure her mother was still alive and suffering. She would turn on the light and whisper directly into Margaret's ear, "Don't forget, Mother, suffering purifies the soul. You yourself said that true faith is known through suffering." Watching the tears rolling from her mother's eyes, Lily felt a strange sense of justice blooming within her like a black rose. On the fourth day, when Margaret was barely breathing, Lily mused aloud about how the most terrible thing about prayer is the uncertainty of whether anyone really hears you. But she assured her mother that she was certainly being heard, for she was such a righteous woman. When Margaret's breathing became shallow and irregular, Lily sat beside her. She gently touched her mother's hair. Even now, exhausted by illness and dehydration, Margaret retained something of her former grandeur, an elusive cruelty in the lines of her face. "You know," Lily whispered, "I've waited so long for this moment. Not for your death, but for the moment when I would understand that you're just human, not omnipotent, not holy." Margaret tried to say something, but only a hoarse sound escaped her lips, like the rustling of autumn leaves. "Shh," Lily soothed her. "I've always wondered, did you ever feel guilty? Did you pray for forgiveness after beating me with the rosary? Did you ever see me as a child, not just a vessel of sin?" She placed her hand on her mother's chest, feeling the heartbeat growing weaker. Lily felt a wave of something new, a powerful satisfaction flowing through her body like a warm current. Her lips involuntarily stretched into an almost solemn smile. She watched her mother's final battle with inevitability with detached fascination. The one who had seemed omnipotent throughout her childhood was now just a broken human being. Lily's smile grew wider, more pronounced, yet never reaching her eyes. They remained cold observers. Something strange was happening to her, as if a heavy burden that had been crushing her soul for years began to release its grip. Was it pleasure? Lily couldn't say for sure, but her smile spoke for itself. Margaret's last breath slipped away easily, almost imperceptibly. Only her wide-open, motionless eyes indicated that she was gone. Lily watched as the light slowly faded from them, like a tide leaving behind an empty shore. Kneeling by the bed, Lily gently smoothed her mother's gray hair. Her movements were almost tender, like a child saying goodbye to a doll. She leaned closer, her lips almost touching Margaret's cold ear. "Mother," she whispered, her voice soft, almost melodic. "You'll surely like it there, in hell. After all, you always loved fire so much, especially when you talked about how sinners would burn." Lily leaned back, examining the frozen face. The corners of her lips rose in a slight smile. "I think you'll settle in quickly there. Maybe you'll even get some position of responsibility, watching over the cauldrons or keeping track of sins. You've always been so organized." There were no tears or regret in her eyes, only the calmness of someone who had finally gotten what they had waited for so long. She ran her fingers over Margaret's eyelids, closing them for the last time. "Goodbye, Mother. Don't forget to pray for me there." She picked up the prayer book and rosary and tossed them into the trash bin by the bed. She stood up, feeling an unusual lightness in her body. She knew she had to call an ambulance, notify the authorities, but a minute or two wouldn't change anything. Before reaching for the phone, she looked out the window at the starry sky and for the first time in many years felt how freely she could breathe.